Or you can send it.
I'll just send it later.
All right.
We are going live.
Okay, so back to thank you.
You shut the door. Yes, thank you. Shut the door.
So, good morning. It is Wednesday, March 15th, 2023, and this is the second half of the morning for Senate Natural Resources and Energy. We're continuing our work on Bill S-100, and we are putting together a committee report in the form of an amendment to S-100. So I think if you could, at sort of a high level, just walk through and remind us of what we have, covering all of them, remind us of what we have, and then we'll slow down when we look at anything new or further amendment.
So right now we're looking at draft 3.1 of the amendments to S-100. I've also provided a summary document updated for this amendment as well. On page 1, the first instance of amendment increases the required density in residential areas of municipal water and sewer from 4 units per acre to 5 units per acre. That has not changed in this draft.
Thank you. We're all set there.
The second instance of amendment amends section 6 of S-100, which is the appeal language in chapter 117. There are no changes in this version of the amendment. This language requires that 10 persons with a common particularized injury be those who are allowed to appeal.
Okay, great. I think for anyone interested in chasing this down, we might look into anything further that even more particular than attributes protected by this chapter. We have a comprehensive statement. Great, thank you.
The third instance of amendment starts on page 3. This is the energy code language. It has not changed in this draft from the prior draft. This prohibits municipalities from adopting stricter energy codes within their municipality. They cannot be stricter than they are. We used to see these as stretch codes, except where enabled by municipal charter.
Okay, thank you.
The fourth instance of amendment amends 10 VSA 6001, which is the Act 250 definition section. This language has not changed from the prior draft. It adds a new temporary jurisdictional trigger so that for housing, 25 or more units would trigger Act 250 when located in a downtown or a neighborhood development area or a growth center. Additionally, there is another temporary provision on page 5. This provision removes the cap on the construction of priority housing projects until July 1, 2026, if the projects are located within downtowns or growth centers.
Thank you.
The fifth instance of amendment is new language. It starts on page, the text of it starts on page 6. The fifth instance of amendment adds a new section 16A to read as follows. This is the text of S32. Page 6, and this is amending 6086B, which is a section in Act 250 that already exists, and it adds additional language to it. So it's adding the concept of master plan permit. To the bottom of page 6, master plan permits. Any municipality within which a downtown development district or neighborhood development area has been formally designated pursuant to Chapter 76A may apply to the District Commission for a master plan permit for that area or for any portion of that area pursuant to the rules of the board. Municipalities making an application under this subdivision are not required to exercise ownership or control over the affected property. Subsequent development of an individual lot within the area of the master plan permit that requires a permit under this chapter, Act 250, shall take the form of a permit amendment. In neighborhood development areas, subsequent master plan permit amendments may only be issued for development that is housing. In approving a master plan permit and amendments, the district commission may include specific conditions that an applicant for an individual project permit will be required to meet. For a master plan permit issued pursuant to this section, an application for an amendment may use the findings issued under the master plan permit as a rebuttable presumption to comply with any applicable criteria under Act 250.
Thank you. So it was an oversight on my part, not to double check with council when I looked at the review last night, failing to notice that that it had dropped out, now it's restored. But we have, do you want to say anything, Senator McCormick, about why you want to include this and sort of the significance of having an amendment as opposed to an application?
I am willing to accommodate, I'm not sure I agree that the permitting process is the problem. I think the problem is market forces, the cost of material and labor, et cetera. However, the mood in the land and the opinion of most of my colleagues in the public is that the permitting process is the problem. I don't think it's a good idea to address that problem by having less environmental review, having less Act 250 review. However, I do think there's no harm to address the issue to speed the process up, to make it smoother. And therefore, what I like as a model is the umbrella permit that we already have for planned use developments and for industrial parks. In this case, the municipality would apply, get the permit. If someone wants to develop in that area, they don't have to go in for a permit. They go in for an amendment to a permit. And that would be based on where this particular project deviates from the master permit or something that the master permit did not deal with in the first place.
Thank you for that. So since, in a way, this is another instance of amendment that we didn't vote on, I'd just like to pause, give it the same treatment. All those supportive of adding this amendment to our overall committee amendment, say aye, raise your hand. Okay, 5-0, good to go. Thank you, Senator McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
And that brings us to the sixth instance of amendment, bottom page 7.
The sixth instance of amendment adds the concept of enhanced village centers. There are no changes from the prior draft to this language. This allows a village center to become an enhanced village center if the town has permanent zoning and subdivision bylaws, municipal sewer and water infrastructure, and adequate staff. Once an enhanced designation has been issued for a village center, up to 50 units of housing, of priority housing project housing, may be exempt from Act 250.
And the seventh
Seventh instance of amendment is strikes out section 24 and 25, which are the wastewater permit connection sections of S100, and it inserts the text from H332. There are some small changes to the section, this section. First, on page 9, subsection 4, the second sentence was deleted.
I'm sorry, kitchen. Oh,
On page 9,
Yep.
subsection 4. This is the line we started. The second sentence of subdivision 4 is deleted in this draft.
oh, okay, thank you. And
The next section, the next change is on page 11. I've added identical language in 2 places to make it clear and hopefully address your concerns. So on page 11, subsection D, assistant, the committee. So here we're talking about the study committee on building energy codes. The study committee shall have the administrative, technical, and legal assistance of the Department of Public Service. The department shall hire a third-party consultant to assist and staff the committee, which may be funded by monies appropriated by the General Assembly or any grant funding received.
All right?
Magic.
Additionally, there is identical language on page 12. So I added it as its own subdivision under the compensation reimbursement section so that it now reads on line 18. The payments under the subdivision G for per diems shall be made from monies appropriated by the General Assembly or any grant funding received.
Great. So much more complete and elegant than what we said. in
Well, since we were doing the whole section, I figured I'd write it out in both places.
Phil, yeah. All right, any committee discussion about
Oh,
further? Yeah.
so that became the seventh instance of amendment because the prior version, seventh instance of amendment was changing the effective date. That is no longer in this draft.
And we reverted back to the original date as drafted. Thank you for that. All right, so with that, I think we are. Chair McDonald?
On the creation of village centers. What,
Are we talking about that, sorry, enhanced village center doesn't new fit, yes, got it.
what provisions are there made for such centers being moved on prime agricultural land?
I don't, not aware of, well, pause and move to council. A good legal question.
There is nothing in here related specifically to primary agricultural soil.
So previously, if you wanted to do development in prime agricultural land, there was provisions in the acre. It was gone.
Under Act 250, the mitigation of primary agricultural soils that will be lost is required. Under the sixth instance of amendment, you are exempting priority housing projects up to 50 units. And so because there will be no Act 250 permit issued for those housing units, there would be no mitigation required.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Town. Any other questions for council on this? For that, so with that, not seeing any further discussion, then I would ask the clerk to please call the roll. We would need a motion, and it would, a member of the committee chairs don't offer motions, so is a member of the committee willing to offer a motion to amend?
I would move that we, I'm not sure what the right language is here, approve version 3.1, amending S100.
Thank you so much. With that, the clerk should call the roll.
Senator McDonald.
No.
Senator McCormick.
Yes.
Senator Watson.
Yes.
Senator White. Yes. Senator Bray.
Yes.
The vote is.
Now we would need a motion to report the bill favorably as so.
So it's 4-1-0 is how I put it. So it's
And so moved.
So moved. Okay, any further discussion?
And just to.
and do I call roll this one too?
Yeah.
Or
Okay, this is to report favorably, to report this.
Yep, that's all. That's,
Oh,
okay, so the clerk should call the roll.
Senator McDonald.
No.
Senator McCormick.
Yes.
Senator Watson.
Yes.
Senator White. Yes. Senator Bray.
Yes. So that's
Okay.
4-1-0, and I'll report the bill.
Thank
Okay, thank you, everyone. I know, I would say, there are moments when we do things that aren't entirely pleasing to the entire committee, but make important progress in finding a way to address well-defined need for more housing in a timely basis in the state of Vermont, while also keeping environmental protections in place. Okay, anyone have anything else they want to bring up at this moment in new business? If not, I want to talk a little bit about the remaining days of this week. Anything for council, you're gonna go get a clean copy for the clerk, okay, the Senate secretary. Thank you, Mr. Kowski. So tomorrow and Friday, we have some irons in the fire, that we, S80 is the A&R housekeeping bill, and, but to revisit, so on tomorrow and Friday, to revisit both S80, the housekeeping bill, and then, we have a committee bill, the Energy Efficiency Modernization Act bill that we take testimony on. We'll have people back in, since we have a vote coming. We want to have a chance for all interested parties to refresh our memories about what they're doing and why, and then we can vote those things tomorrow, then we have Freedom Friday, but if not, we'll have a chance. We have both Thursday and Friday to first hear testimony. If we need amendments, get those amendments drafted, and then revisit the bills on Friday and vote. The goal is to have S80 and our committee bill on the out this week. We will make crossover on S5, S100, S80, and energy efficiency modernization, which doesn't yet have a bill number. So that kind of work from here. Oh, there is one other piece of work we need to do, and that is lining up. There is in S33, which is in Senate Judiciary, there's a provision related to environmental contamination claims. The question was, when does there's a 6-year statute of limitations. So we'll have lawyers in to go through this with us, but the question was, there's a 6-year statute of limitations on claims for environmental contamination. The question was, when does the shot clock start for that 6 years? And there is, I think, a precedent that indicates it's after detection or discovery, not at time of deposition, general exposure. So the Attorney General's office got in touch with me about this last month, and I said, this is a lot like the medical monitoring work that judiciary has been doing. And I suggested they work with the judiciary committee, which they have done. However, as a courtesy, Senator Sears flagged that they were going to be doing this and asked just to be aware. When I looked at it, I thought it was a good idea, but I don't want to be speaking on behalf of the committee. I want us all to take a look at it and see if we want to basically sign off on what judiciary is about to do.
Clarify this, it's moving from what to what? It's moving from time of deposition to time of discovery?
Yeah, and I
That's
don't
when the
want
clock
to,
starts?
yeah, and I want to not create a misleading record. There's discussion about which one of those, how do you do the measure? And I think the AG's office is interested in making sure that statute is clear. And so I don't want to opine on exactly how it's been measured to date, or what kind of precedent there is in court cases. But
Do it in 20 minutes or a half hour. Having someone from judiciary come in and explain.
yeah, so we'll have time scheduled on Friday.
Yeah, we don't have to have a bill. I don't
Yeah, no, okay, right.
just,
I didn't want to ask them to refer the bill because they're only going to vote it out Friday. So if we were to take the bill, it would miss crossover.
Yeah.
But Senator Sears did want us to be aware, and so we'll have lawyers in, our lawyers, as well as someone from the AG's office. And we'll get this getting done. Okay, so thank you everyone for grinding through some challenging work.
So I'm trying to think, the trapping issue, we have held off because last year we asked for a report. And
Yes,
so it's not really proper for us to make. We haven't heard the report yet. I've heard it on the news.
Yeah.
But we haven't heard anything. Is there something coming from the House on that?
I don't know, just looking at our whiteboard, we have we have S-111, but, that aside, coming back to the report, because we've been in full court press on these other bills, we haven't taken the time, but I agree 100%, we've asked for a report. It's productive, good governance, and respectful to hear the report. So, we'll have the commissioner in perhaps as soon as next week.
Yeah, and wake boats, did you mention wake boats just now?
I did not mention wake boats. It's been a conversation in here other years, and there's kind of a renewed interest and effort to address it. A&R is writing rules on wake boats, and there's some,
They have the draft rules out already.
I contacted Secretary Moore about it, and so we, the secretary and other interested parties to look at the wake
There
boats.
is some controversy.
Sure. I think one of the most controversial things about it, when we looked at it before, was that when you draw all that water in ballast so that you can make more wake, what happens with that water eventually? And if you go to other lakes, then you're flushing that water out, or you're washing water in and out of these tanks, which are not sterile. And now you take invasive species from lake to lake. So,
We erodes the shoreline. I just listened last night.
yes, yeah, there's the, then you get big waves and how erosive are they, and, so there's a discussion, I think, around how far offshore you need to be, 500 versus 1,000 feet. If you have to be 1,000 feet from the shore, there's plenty of places you don't go at all because you'll never more than 1,000 feet.
Yeah.
You would have to have something at least 2,000. Yeah, exactly.
There are people who point that out as a,
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
a
yeah.
given, and therefore you can't have that rule.
I think it's also a little less silly than you could have a pencil strip down the middle that was just big enough. I think there's a minimum number of acres of space
Yeah.
that complies with that requirement. So there's more to learn. There's,
It's a conversation our district is very
Yeah.
engaged in.
okay, well, and I think there's kind of a revitalized group whose name is escaping me at the moment, but probably we've all gotten emails from that group. And we'll certainly be circling back to that. So thanks for that. So we have wake boats, we have the report on trapping. We also have, there's an anti-degradation rule for water quality that's going to Elcar. And it's kind of a fellow traveler with another bill related to water quality standards. Bring that in here. We maybe, we also haven't received much from the House, but we did just get H67 household
Oh,
hazardous
yeah.
waste,
Definitely.
which we've worked on here before, and,
You still have hazardous waste.
no,
Only in households.
Definitely nurseries.
we're required to retain it.
Are we, again, you probably missed this, right? Are we more or less booked up to Friday already, or are we sort of breathing easy with this one?
It depends on how things go with 80 and the Energy Efficiency Modernization Act. Honestly, it's hard for me to tell. I thought we were pretty much at almost ready to vote, and then we've had interested parties speaking up about wanting to provide more testimony.
On S80 or the EMA stuff?
On the EMA bill.
Oh.
So on S80, I think there's little controversy. And also, just so you'll know, I Monday got in touch with Chair Ingalls to say there is a revolving loan fund. The revolving loan fund provisions in that bill. Institutions looks at and manages revolving loan funds. Chair Emmons is already talked to me about, they're gonna be doing some work on revolving loan funds. I let Senator Ingalls know, and I'm gonna be asked to go in and just share what's in the bill. I want to give you the courtesy of giving them the heads up, just like Senator Sears gave us the heads up on S33. So I will be reporting that out. So in case you want to know if we're maintaining courteous relationships with our fellow committees, I think we are.
After crossover. Well, first of all, before crossover, I don't know if there's any way to squeeze in highway salt.
We would have to do it Friday.
Would it need to go to transportation as well?
Well, it calls for a study. It doesn't call for any actual policy change.
So, yeah, I mean, there is also,
Miscellaneous bill.
as you well know, there's like more than one way to pass a bill or pass language. So we're starting to get House bills. There's the possibility of adding something to a House bill. We might well see the, miscellaneous, there are bills in play. We'll keep our eyes wide open.
Yeah, could we open up the ANR miscellaneous bill to potentially look at salt? Is that something?
I think there are different enough, one is really their housekeeping bill, and I'll confess that last year, we didn't get some of their final edits into the bill. We didn't drop the ball. They just didn't get, let's just say they did all their edits and it in. So I'm trying to make sure that we get ANR's housekeeping bill done for crossover.
Also, it is a biennium, so it wouldn't hurt to simply familiarize ourselves this year with the issue. And one last Hail Mary guess. I wonder if the senator from Addison would be at all interested. This is a real long shot, but is there any way we can find some way for the state to buy the Boy Scout camp at Sunset Lake?
Well,
It's a shame to have it go. When it's
we
gone, it's gone.
could, have it, when Secretary Moore is in, we could ask her to provide some testimony on that. So I get it, it's down in, it's crosses the district lines between Addison, it's shared by the Rutland District and the Addison District. And plenty of constituents who wish the state would step up. They have, they just, I think Secretary, I won't try to recapitulate what Secretary Moore said, but she has a fairly complete answer to it. And it
I don't want
includes
to do
two
it.
parts. Well, but I think to be fair to them, there's not just the initial purchase cost, but once the state owns a facility, it needs to meet state standards for parking and sanitation, and then they inherit a dam that needs to be replaced. And so that it's a much bigger commitment than the purchase price alone. I've also, talked to the municipalities involved and asked them to work with conservation groups and maybe think about the towns themselves creating a fund so that they're supporting it as well. I mean, because a lot of the plea has been, well, this is a really important thing to our town. And so to me, it's like, okay, if it's really important to your town, then one way to help raise all the money is to make your own municipal commitment that helps draw other funders to the table.
There is an effort like that happening. They're sort of patterning themselves after the Champion Lands deal. And it's the land trust and some private ownership and that the state, and what I have in mind, because the state doesn't want to run a state park. ANR does not want to do a state park because of the costs that you mentioned. My sense is simply that once the land is gone, it's gone. And then we want to just take it off the market and then see what happens.
Right. Well, there's also the Boy Scouts of America, who are the current owners. Are they willing to wait longer?
No, they need the money.
Or could they afford to accept less, reduce the price for a friendly sale?
This is all about the Boy Scouts needing money. That's what it is about. Unfortunately.
So I'm very sensitive to the issue. Wish we had a better answer for people, and I think it's going to take some creative funding using multiple streams in order to consider getting, to find a way to pull that off. You're a former mayor, you may have some thoughts on how to create such an area.
I'm sorry, how to create what, such an area?
Oh, sorry, maybe you were gonna talk about something entirely.
I was gonna talk about something entirely
It's
different.
okay.
So this being my first year here, just wondering about process, so, this week is crossover.
Yep.
Right, and so does that mean that next week we are going to be inundated by bills from the House that pertain to natural resources and energy?
Presumably.
Presumably, right?
Well, we've gotten, we got 67 and we got 61.
Oh, okay, so we've gotten a couple already.
We have a couple already. I think the biggest thing that may come our way in terms of like work/controversy, I think would be the bottle bill.
Yep.
Last year, this committee did a yeoman's duty on the bottle bill to come up with a extended producer responsibility model.
Yep.
That I think has been adopted by the House and further modified.
Okay.
So hopefully we are, not starting entirely from
Right.
scratch, but I also know we have 2 new members of the committee and we will assume nothing and
Yeah,
take it up, but all which is to say, I'm hoping it's a fairly well-baked construct right now, because it's been through this side,
yeah.
taken up by that side and further removed.
And just as a matter of, I'm not sure if the right phrase is like principle or as a matter of, what's normal, does this mean if we have, thinking about like the salt bill, or if there's other new ideas that come from us, there's 1 or 2 that I'm sort of
Yeah.
still cooking on, and,
For instance,
is there openness to,
so we'll have,
Talk about
thank
Look
you
for vehicles.
Thank you for that. Yeah. So depending on how the timing goes on these bills and getting stuff out,
Mhm.
hearing about S33, if we don't do it Friday, so thank you for asking.
yeah,
I would just ask members to think about what they have in mind and because we will plan as a group how we're gonna spend the time we have remaining.
right,
So far, we've actually been responsive to 2 major caucus priorities.
Yeah.
Housing and thermal sector emissions and costs. So now we're finally gonna be choosing bills for ourselves to take up. So I'd ask people to think about that, and maybe we can have that conversation Friday.
okay, great,
And then also, since you haven't experienced this, this challenge for this, as depending on how the session starts to wind down, roughly 2 weeks before the sense that we might adjourn, morning committees are usually shut down.
Oh.
And that's because the 2 money committees have 14 members. And so for them to have Senate, so in order to enable them to meet all day long, handling money bills that have to get done for us to finish our work for the session, we make sure that every senator who's on those committees can work all day in those committees. So
I see,
the cost is that morning committees are shut down. Sometimes we can squeak in some meetings prior. So for the case of Cal and I in finance, if we're not starting till 9, we have other years that we have something we're still working on and we want to get it out. And we've met like at 8 or 8:30 and just had an hour's worth of time
yeah,
to push something along. So it's not an absolute shutdown, but it does mean all of a sudden we, and that could happen as soon as the 3rd week of April.
yeah. Okay,
So we have about a month that we can count on.
okay,
Maybe we can get a little more.
all right, good to know, thank you.
And then happily, as Senator Coleman pointed out, it's year 1 of a biennium, so it's a much less desperate state to leave things in than year 2.
A lot of things take more than 1 year. Some things
Yeah.
take 5 years.
Oh dear.
Or your whole life.
Yeah.
Clotheslines took 20 years.
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Simple little